Welcome to the Green Grind Podcast, where we discuss real experience, real struggles, and real business. My name is Leroy Maines. I'm with Brilliant Borders Landscaping, and we have Corey Ballard with Perfect Cut Site Management and Ballard Innovative Products. As always, we have Kaz, who's the brains of this thing, getting it from our mouth to your ears and eyes. Just a friendly reminder that the Green Grind is sponsored by Jobber and Hustler. Today, Corey and I are talking with Tony Ricketts. Tony founded Lawnline Marketing in 2016. Since 2016, Lawnline has grown its customer base to over 200 lawn and landscape companies throughout the country. Tony, welcome to the Green Grind. We're glad to have you on our podcast today.
Thanks, Leroy. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we brought Tony on here. We just actually, my company signed up with his company here at the beginning of the year to do some marketing and some advertising for us. We kind of did a lot of that stuff in-house and decided it was time to really boost that up and ended up hiring these guys. We talked to a couple other companies and they seem to really have their stuff together and hired them. So grateful to have him on our show today. And I know you guys use a company as well for Perfect Cut, if I'm not mistaken. I don't believe it's Lawnline. Is that
No,
correct?
Yeah, we use a company that, for years that's helped us with just our marketing collateral, being consistent in our marketing. And, we get a lot of questions, guys, on the Green Grind, and just questions that Leroy and I get just on how to market and where to use my time and where do I spend my, my money. And so hopefully Tony can bring some insight on what his company does. And, if it's a fit for your company, great. Maybe there's just some other things that you guys get some takeaway on. How do you get that phone to ring? How do you get people on your website? How do you get more clients? Because everybody's asking, how do I grow my company? And then, of course, the second question is, where do I get people? But we won't talk about that as much today.
Right. So, yeah, Tony, could you tell us just a little bit about you and kind of how you got your start with Lawnline? From my understanding, you had a company before that did a lot of everything and kind of had to zero in like a lot of companies do. Can you talk to us and just describe that a little bit for us, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll actually start a little bit further back in my background. My background in this industry started in the early to mid 90s, right when the internet first started. My father was a web developer. I was a young boy, about 10 years old. He taught me how to code, and I fell in love with it ever since. Continued doing it through high school. Graduated from high school, went to college for it. When I graduated high school, I moved from Indiana down to Florida, where I am now. And when I was in college, I got a job on a landscape crew. So that's what I did for my college job. I spent 2 years working on a landscape crew, doing mostly softscape installations, softscape maintenance, and things like that. After I graduated, I got into working for different marketing agencies, got into the industry, worked in it professionally for a while before I geared out and started my own agency. Now, like many other agency owners prior to me, they start off with a generalist agency, which is where we're serving local businesses in any industry or any service or niche around us. And the problem with that is it becomes too difficult to scale because you have to keep learning everybody's businesses over and over. A landscaping business is very different from that of an HVAC or a plumbing or any other company that you can think of out there. So the strategies and methods that work for one niche or industry may not necessarily work for another. And we wanted to create something that's scalable. And with so many moving parts, we had to create something that could be systematized, just like in any other business. And that's when we decided that it's time to niche down, quit relearning every industry out there, and let's focus on one specific niche. That's when I opened Lawnline Marketing in 2016. My original agency I opened in May of 2007. So I ran that for 9 years before I got smart and was able to get down into an individual niche. And we developed programs and systems that work and learn the industry, now know the industry inside and out, and that's kind of how we built this company and built this reputation. So went from generalist into focusing specialty on the lawn and landscape space. Now I will tell you real quick, there's two reasons that I chose lawn and landscape.
Yeah, that was my question, Tony. I was going to be like, why lawn and landscape?
Yeah. Right. So I get that question a lot. Why lawn and landscape? It's not the most glamorous industry out there that you can think of to do digital marketing for. Two reasons. One is because I knew the industry already. I spent 2 years on a landscape crew in Fort Myers, Florida, where I originally moved when I first came to Florida. And I knew how it operated, how it worked. I knew plant names, all of that kind of stuff. The other reason I chose it is because you can bring a quick ROI to them. It's not like other industries or other niches, say like think of real estate, for example. If you generate a lead for a realtor, it can be months before they see any return on that lead coming in whatsoever. Well, if you're let's say, focusing on the fert and weed side or on the maintenance side, as long as you're in the right price points, you're going to close that deal. Now, landscape design build is going to be a little bit longer of a sales process, but that is one thing that attracted me to this industry is companies can pay me today and I can give them a return tomorrow.
Yeah, it makes sense. And there's, and the industry's constantly growing. There's new guys entering the industry constantly. So I think you made a good choice. And there's, millions of lawn care landscape companies out there of all sizes. And I think this is one of the things we talk a lot about is marketing. Before we went on air here, we were talking about just, that's a question we get constantly. How do I get the phone to ring? How do I get people on my website? And then we know, when you and I talk to people all the time, Leroy, that don't even have a website. We're like, guys, you got to get a website. I mean, it's 2023. It doesn't have to be a $50,000 website, but you got to get something up that talks about at least who you are, what services you offer, and how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, the website's always selling for you, and it's just so difficult. And it's not that difficult to build. I mean, GoDaddy has them. There's several companies out there that do. I mean, you can just plug your own stuff in. Really, not too difficult to do. But and then you also get a professional email address with that. Typically, it's not typically something at gmail.com or at Yahoo or some of them, I think, still AOL or whatever the case is.
AOL, are the AOL still around?
I've saw one a few times.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, when it comes to your website, I always tell everybody the website's your foundational piece to your entire online marketing. If you want to show up on Google, that's your website that's ranking there. When you run advertising on Google or Facebook, you want to drive those people back to your website. It's the one thing that you own on the internet, that you own and control. It's the one thing that houses your content. It's what houses your authority. So your website is the foundational piece to everything. So if you don't have a website, then you're not even set up to do digital marketing.
Absolutely. Good point.
Interesting to know that. I guess I was unaware of that. But we've always had a website, I guess, too. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
Tony, what separates your company from other companies out there? We know there are other companies that obviously just do marketing and branding for all sorts of different companies, but there are also a couple out there as well, too, that do just our industry. What sets you guys apart from those guys?
Absolutely. There are a couple of other competitors that we have that specialize in this space. And the things that are differentiating between us are a few things. One is that we only work with the bigger companies in this space. You got to have at least $1 million a year minimum to work with us. Our average company is doing about $6-7 million a year on average, and we're working with companies to the $25-30 million a year range. So that's the size of clients that we typically work with. The vast majority of this industry are under $1 million a year. So that means that we're only applicable for probably about 20% of the lawn and landscape space. Everybody else underneath that is going to be a lot smaller. So that's one thing that separates us. Another thing that's unique about us is the way that we operate. We are, and Leora, you know this, we are what I refer to as an old school agency in the way that we work. And what I mean by that is we have a physical office. Our team works out of our office. They get up every day, they put on regular clothes, they get in their car, and they drive to work. That is unheard of for a digital marketing agency in 2023. Most digital marketing agencies are all working remote and at best case spread throughout the United States. However, a big bulk of internet marketing agencies today are outsourcing their work to overseas teams, right? They're able to get things done for a lot lower price point. We do all fulfillment here in-house. So we have several different divisions of our company, all of them fully staffed with specialists and experts in their individual piece of internet marketing. So we have a web design development department, we have an SEO department, a content writing department, paid advertising department, our recruiting department for recruiting services that we do for our clients, our client communications, our sales. So all of these people are fulfilling in-house. We're not sending anything overseas or anything like that. So those are two things that separate us. I would say the third thing that separates us is the way we deliver our services, that we don't do a la carte things. People can't come hire us just for a website. You know, as you guys were just talking about, websites is, you know, one of the first pieces that people should get together. You can't hire us just to handle that piece for you. We do everything from end to end, including the websites, the paid advertising, the social media, the data tracking and analysis. All of that is all wrapped and bundled up under two marketing programs that we offer. So that's another unique thing about us. I say the final thing that's unique about us is that we're known for growing companies by the millions. That's one of our slogans, is we like to see 7-figure growth for every one of our companies every year. So if somebody's at 5 million, we're expecting them to get to a minimum of at least 6 million next year.
Nice. Well, and that helps understand, because, you know, there are, as you mentioned, and I say this a lot on the podcast, but in our industry, this last stat I saw was 86% of the companies do less than $1 million in the U.S. So, you know, most guys are in that smaller range, but then there's a lot of guys that are above that $1 million, and they're trying to figure out, how do I get to 3? How do I get to 5? You know, and marketing's a huge piece of it. And then on the back end is, you know, how do you make sure that you can execute, hire, and get the work done, you know, in a way that. So, Tony, when you're working with a new company, you took Leroy's company, Brilliant Borders, on. And this is kind of just a weird question, because do you care how they facilitate? I mean, you want to get the phone to ring, you want to get people to their website, right? You want to create new work for them. Are you involved at all? Is Lawnline involved at all with how they're going to execute? Make sure, you know, how the phones get answered. How do they handle the leads that come in? You know, and then the final piece is you probably don't care how they execute. That's not your role. But do you have those conversations with the owners and managers of those companies that, if we do what we say we're going to do and you invest it with us and that phone rings and the website inquiries start coming in, are you capable of managing them?
Absolutely. So we do have those conversations. One of the things that Leroy would know from when he did the initial consultations with us is we ask about your phone answering staff and who do you have in there? Are you guys using answering services and all of those types of things? Because when an internet-based lead comes in through a phone call during business hours, if it doesn't get answered, they're just going to the next guy on Google. Internet leads are not like referrals. A referral will leave a voicemail. They'll wait for a call back because somebody recommended them. When it comes from the internet, they found you on Google and a list of several other providers. They called you, you didn't answer, they're just going right to the next one. So that's why answering your phone during business hours is absolutely critical. And it's also one of the differentiators that you can have for your business, that we're a company that always answers our phone during business hours. So we will, for our elite counts, that's our bigger program, we listen to all calls and review all website form submissions. So we'll know if you're not answering your phone calls or how your answering staff is doing and things like that. On our Accelerate accounts, which are our smaller program, they get spot checked. Now, we do expect at least a 40% closing rate out of the leads that we generate. So we are implementing new systems. We're getting ready to roll out those who use Service Autopilot this week. That is actually going to be connecting revenue generated with leads generated. So we have all the lead data on our side of where it came from, how much we're paying for those leads, all of that kind of stuff. And over in the various CRMs, whether you're using, like I said, we're rolling out Service Autopilot this week, Real Green will be coming up, LMN, all these various ones, you have the closing and sales data over there. So what we're doing is extracting the data out of the one system, comparing it to the leads that we have over in our lead data system, and updating how much revenue has actually been generated from that particular lead. So we're expecting you to have a closing rate of at least 40%, but then taking it to that next level of tracking your actual ROI on the dollars that you spent is one of the most important aspects of your marketing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
look at all those you're answering all the questions I sent you yesterday. Like he's already answering them, but it's ROI, and then of course, just making sure, because somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, Tony, all that marketing didn't work," and you're like, "Yeah, because you didn't answer your phone, right? You didn't follow up on leads. You're not closing. You're not getting back to people in a timely manner." So you guys are a partner, and Leroy, maybe you can speak on this because you're using this, but it's a partnership, because if they're doing their job right, but you're not on your end, then you're going to say, man, Lawnline didn't work for us.
Right. So to be quite honest, when we had the initial phone call with them, I was kind of floored because they were extremely transparent, and this is the way we do it. And kind of, if you don't like it, move on, and I was okay with that. And I actually kind of like that. It was just a no bullshit kind of deal. This is what we have. You take it or leave it. But one of the things I asked was how much revenue did we do last year and what are we expected to do this year? And Tony, I don't remember if you were on the call or if it was your sales guy, but he said, well, I'm a little concerned with that because we were expecting like a 12% growth. And they're like, you need to have more, and then it goes into who's answering your phones, how are you guys doing this? And I'm like, we're hiring you here. Wait a minute. Why are you asking all these questions? But it makes sense because they know what to do. They know how you're going to get the leads and they know how many are going to come in, and you have to be prepared for that. And I'm assuming that's one of the reasons you don't deal with companies under $1 million, just because they probably don't have the staff to handle all that, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons. There's 4 things that we qualify people on. It's going to be the people, the location, the services, and the revenue. So one, we want to know the revenue to make sure that you guys can afford us. We have specific recommendations that we have, and we have put out data analysis. So like you can go on Lawn and Landscape Magazine website, and we recently published an article there last month that outlines the data of all of our customers, what they're doing in revenue, what they're spending in their marketing, so that people can have an idea of what they should expect and where they are. So when we look at your revenue, if you're not over $1 million, you should be at that point in time dedicating at least 5% of your top line revenue for regular growth, not super aggressive, not super slow. So that's about a $50,000 investment when you're at $1 million. And that's really going to be about the minimum to put together a program like what we do. So under $1 million, you're not going to have the revenue to be able to afford us, because we all know the margins in this space. Those that are focused more on like the maintenance type stuff is going to be down in like the 10-12%. What we see for people that are focusing on the turf care, the chemical applications, those are tipping over 20%. So we do understand your margins, but you shouldn't be allocating any more than those percentages based on your revenues. And at $1 million, you can afford us. So that's the revenue that we look at. Two is going to be your people. We want to make sure you can absorb the growth. If you can't absorb the growth, it doesn't do us any good to generate you 200 leads a month if you can't service them, right? Now you're just throwing money away. So you've got to be able, there's two sides to absorbing growth. One is being able to bring them into your business. The second is being able to service them, right? You've got to be able to answer the phones and quote it and do the estimations. And the third is you got to fulfill that work. So there's two sides to the people. The third one was going to be your areas. There's got to be enough fish in the sea to go after. Obviously, you guys are in the Des Moines area. There's plenty of people there, but people do reach out to us from remote areas, right? They're in a town that's got 10,000 people, and it's like it's going to be very difficult for us to get an ROI for you with this small of a audience pool to go after. And the last one was the services. We only work with lawn and landscape, so we want to find out about your services to make sure that we know we can get a result with them. So those are the four things that we check on. But the people that are under $1 million, in short, they don't have the people, processes, and systems in place to be able to scale yet. They've got a lot of hurdles that they're going to face that they're not ready for something like what we offer yet.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So what would you tell those guys, Tony? What could they do to get started? If they're under $1 million, say they're doing, $400,000 or $500,000 a year, what would you suggest that those guys do for some marketing just to try to get to that $1 million mark?
Right. The basics. Have yourself a website, have your Google business profile set up, consistently work on building your reviews and put content out there. And by content, I mean write blogs, do videos, things like that, things that you can easily do on your own. And once you reach that level where you're actually ready to scale, and when I say you're ready to scale, you as the owner are pretty much out of the business, right? If you are still doing all the sales yourself and you're the only guy doing sales, you're going to get bottlenecked. I mean, how our average client, we pulled it up, unique leads generates consistently across the year around 230, 250 leads a month on average. It'll be more in the springtime, less in the wintertime. But how can you as one guy run 250 leads in a month? You can't. You have to have yourself extracted out of the business to where you're working on just high level decisions and you've got people doing your fulfillment. I mean, that's the only way a full out marketing program like this works.
Yeah, it makes sense. And we talk a lot to guys that are smaller and, understanding what types of things they can do. And you just mentioned the basics. And I always ask guys too, I mean, they say, well, I put out 1,000 door hangers and I only got 4 calls. I'm like, yeah, that seems about right. Actually, I mean, it's like, it's a low, but then, what are you going to do to get to that next level? And I think, being focused on $1 million and up, most of those companies at that point have the infrastructure in place, hopefully, to handle the type of leads that they're going to get and being consistent. One of the things that I see a lot of companies do, and I think maybe you can speak on this to what your program is, but they only advertise when they're slow, right? So the work slows down, they do a bunch of marketing, they get full, they quit marketing, and then they get slow again, they do a bunch of marketing. That doesn't typically work. At Perfect Cut, we market 12 months a year, nonstop, whether it's for new leads, whether it's for new staffing. I mean, we have a program in place, and I assume this is what Lawnline does, but we are always marketing. And you see that all the time with companies. It's this ebb and flow. They get a bunch of work in, they don't do any marketing, now they're out of work, and they try to throw, that in my opinion, doesn't work.
Correct. 100% agree. And that doesn't happen with us all that often because we have another policy, if you want to talk about our policies, and that is that you cannot stop or pause your services at any time.
I love this
now,
policy.
We will allow you to cancel services, but we have everybody sign a 12-month agreement. So Leroy signed a 12-month agreement with us, but like everything else, that in itself is unique. You can cancel anytime you want. There is no cancellation fees, but if you ever pause or cancel your marketing services, you can never come back to us again. So if you want to stop in the winter, absolutely feel free. Just don't call us back next spring to get it all running again. So I like 100%, you have to market 12 months a year. One thing I tell people that they don't realize, especially the smaller guys, there's actually a lot of business to have in the winter.
Yep.
So what people don't realize is you guys that are in the turf care side of the business, you're sending out your renewals in October, November, right? To sign up for the next year, get your 5% prepaid discount, all of that. By you doing that, and every other lawn care company across your city doing that, that triggers those people to go look for other options. Right? I wasn't real happy with my provider this past year. Let me go see who else is out there because they just reminded me I need to renew my service. Come December and January, that's when True Green, that's when Weedman, that's when all the other big ones start sending out their direct mail. They get their mailers in the mailbox, True Green's mailing to them. Now they go look for other options. You also have all your people that don't procrastinate. Believe it, there are still some humans that don't procrastinate and understand what a lawn or landscape company looks like in the springtime. So they know they need to reach out in the wintertime. So we often hear from our clients, I had no idea there was this much business that could be had in the wintertime when we have snow on the ground.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love that fact of, you can leave us, but you're never coming back. I've never had a company tell me.
It's a little cocky, Tony, but I like it. But I agree with you. Like, that's not the business model that you guys want. You're not going to shut us off as soon as you're full. And then, but now it's spring, we'd like to get back on board. That's not a very, well, it's just not a good partnership. I mean, if you're looking for partners to build their companies, it's not you just can't a la carte it and all of a sudden, we're busy, we don't want to pay the fee. Well, you can do that, but you can't come back.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And for us, it's more of the economics and the logistics. So this is one of the very first hurdles I had to overcome when I started this agency this is a seasonal business. And I had to overcome that hurdle. One of the problems, Leroy, why companies like you start to outsource it is because this is not a one-man job. Right. We have specialists that are web designers, SEO people, content writers, paid advertising specialists, social media specialists. And if you have our recruiting service, we have recruiting specialists. That means that's not even counting your communication specialists. That's 5 to 6 people it takes for me to execute one of our clients' services that have to interact. In order for you as a company to hire those 5 or 6 people, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just in their pay, because these people are expensive, right? They're not people that you just go find off the street. They take education, years and years of experience. So when it comes down to the economics of it, we don't lay our staff off. I can't go to my staff and say, hey, half of you are going to lose your job for the next 2 or 3 months because we're in the landscape business and half of them want to shut their marketing down over the wintertime. Yeah. So for us, it's just simple economics.
Makes sense. I have a question. How do I get Brilliant Borders out of my Facebook feed?
Make less money.
But I know your marketing. I know your marketing's working because I keep seeing it.
Move to the east side of town.
I just keep seeing it. Now I got the top fan badge because I like so many of them. But I've seen a ton of your stuff now on Facebook, whether it's lawn apps, marketing. I think you're marketing landscape construction and all those things. But Tony, can you talk a little bit about marketing versus advertising? What's your thoughts on the difference between the two? Because they are different, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like marketing is more of the marathon, and advertising is like more of the sprint, right? That's the way I would kind of look at it. Marketing is long term. It's building a brand. It is building that natural, organic inbound flow of business. So that's really going to come into your content, your funnels, things like that. I feel like advertising is like you go to Google, you pay them $10 because somebody wants to hire this service today, you close that customer, right? That's advertising. Whereas marketing is when somebody landed on your website, maybe they didn't reach out to you. And like you're seeing, Corey, we're going to continuously keep following them around through education, through building a brand, through showing our cultural insights and putting ourselves as the expert, right? We go towards a strategy called story brand. I don't know if either of you two have ever heard of story brand before, but story brand is all about guiding the buyer through the journey, keeping them as the hero and yourself as the guide. And when you do that, you establish a long-term sustainable lead generation type system, because you're not just trying to get everybody ready to buy today. You're building a brand that when anybody is ready to buy, they know your brand and you're the one that's top of their mind. I like to use the analogy of building a fire. You may remember this, Leroy. Advertising and using paid ads is like building a fire with gasoline. You get instant results, instant flames, but you can't build a sustainable fire with gas. That gas is going to burn up. You got to put more gas on it. That's what advertising dollars are. Whereas marketing and SEO is more like your wood. It doesn't work and give you an ROI right away. You can't put a lighter underneath a log on a fire and have an instant fire. It takes time to burn. But once that wood is burning, that creates a sustainable lead generation system for you, which is what your marketing is.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I can tell you at Perfect Cut, our marketing has changed so much over the years. I mean, we still do advertising on some level, but for the most part, our stuff is really about our people, about our core values, about our brand. I mean, we've just changed the way we're focusing a lot on our people and showcasing our talented staff. And we're not trying to sell anything, but what we are I shouldn't say that, we're selling the brand. We're not trying to sell a specific service at that moment. We're just talking about, again, we want you to know who we are, what our core values are, and and the level that we love our people. And then we're just top of mind, right? We're not, if you look at our stuff now, it's totally different than it was even 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. We're not running free lawn apps. If you sign up for 4, you get 1 for free. We're not doing a bunch of that stuff. Now we have at times, but now today it just looks a lot different. It's marketing for long-term branding.
Well, I think you have that sustained lead generation, and they continue to come, like you just talked about. You've done the advertising, you've done that for years and years and years, and now you're reaping the benefits of those things, and your search engines being where, or your Google sites being where they need to be, and doing all those types of things. Tony, so one of the reasons we hired you is because simply we couldn't keep up, and as you mentioned before, I can't hire a Facebook person, a Google person, a person to do this, and it seems like every time I turned around, Google was changing this. We went from Google, whatever it was, and now it's on Google Maps, my Google, all these it always changes. Facebook's constantly changing. You get TikTok in there, Pinterest pops up. How do you guys keep up with all of this stuff? And how do even your people that are specialized in like Google keep up with everything? It seems like things change constantly in this little world.
Right. It does. Absolutely. And I think that's where siloing our fulfillment has really helped out in that regard. So what I mean by that is the people who are running our paid advertising here in the office, that's all they do all day, every day. They don't have to care about what Google's SEO algorithms are doing or what organic reach on Facebook is changing or any of these things. All they deal with are paid ads on these specific platforms all day, every day. And they are up to date on the training. We're certified. Google and all these other platforms put out various types of educational materials whenever things change. So it's their job to stay up on that stuff. So it really comes down to just the siloing, right?
Yeah. What trends? I mean, I know like for Ballard, we do a ton of marketing. We're an e-com business, and Kaz is our specialist, and he's talking a lot about shorts now being popular. I mean, things constantly change. Are there anything in length of videos? We used to do long form videos. Now it seems like we can't keep people engaged longer than about 45 seconds. Has that changed the strategy, I assume, on the type of marketing you do for each and every company?
Yeah, it does change. So when it comes to things like there's videos and there's different platforms. So you mentioned like TikTok. When it comes to a marketing agency like us, when we execute a service, we have to know that we're going to get results. So platforms like TikTok, another one is Nextdoor. These are platforms with unproven paid advertising strategies. So they don't have their audience reach dialed in. When it comes to marketing, your audience is everything, right? You may not be getting great video views because your audience may not be perfectly aligned with the subject matter of the video. Who knows what it could be, but your audience is the key thing. So what we do is for our elite companies that are the bigger companies with bigger budgets on our bigger program, we let them know that we have these beta platforms that we're testing with. So if you want to take some of your budget, throw it over on TikTok, put it over on Nextdoor. There's a couple others out there that we're playing with too, and see if you get any results out of it. This could be a complete crapshoot. You may get 1 million leads at 10 cents a lead, or you could spend $500 and get a goose egg. Absolutely nothing, right? And we get them know ahead of time, but we're wanting to figure out the strategies for this platform, and we're going to use you as a guinea pig. So you're basically getting it for free, tacked on to what you're already doing, and we're going to use you as a guinea pig. It might be great, and it might suck, and we're very transparent about that ahead of time. When it comes to the videos, now it is so much about funnels. You have to, and for those who don't understand what a funnel is a collection of content that is grouped together based on its topic. So let's say, for example, a topic could be outdoor kitchens, right? Outdoor kitchens for outdoor people who do hardscapes. And that funnel will consist of educational content, blog articles, videos, project case studies, all the different types of content that you have. You put them in a funnel, and as people interact and engage, you drop them into various levels down that funnel. So like, for example, let's use Corey's example of his video. You can set specific videos by length. You can start with the short ones, and the people who watch, say, 50% of that video, now they're going to get the 2-minute long video. And the ones who watch at least 25% of that video or 50% of that video are going to get the 4-minute video later on about something different. Eventually, we're going to slide in there a call to action to actually turn into a lead. Usually we do these things. They're usually about 60, 70% educational. We want to have about 20, 30% of cultural, and then only about 5 or 10% sales.
Right, it makes sense.
And the focus you want to have.
Yeah, and you want, another thing is, guys, you want good leads. I can tell you, I just saw one of the TikTok videos we did, and it has 145,000 views, right? I don't know if I don't know who my daughter watching. I have no idea who is watching those. So it's not always about number. We're like, oh my God, this one had, we've had some videos go viral and they've had 300, 400,000 views. No idea on TikTok if any of those are qualified buyers, right? And so I always think about, like, I've said this, I'd rather have 10 quality leads than 500 shitty ones, So it's kind of honing in, what type of leads you get and are they qualified leads? And there's so many different things that we do on our marketing to make sure that we're reaching the right people, actual, buyers. And to your point, we do a lot of educational stuff, including the Green Grind, our podcast, and we're trying to elevate our industry. And if at the end of the day they want to buy from us, fine. If they don't, that's fine too. But we just had another guest on, and he talked a lot about, just educating customers. And then if they want to use this service, that's a bonus. But it's a lot about educational on, here's the weed and feed program if you want to go to Home Depot and buy it, but here's what we offer if you're interested in a professional service.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is very correct.
Tony, let's talk a little bit. You mentioned those third-party websites, and there's, Angie's List, Thumbtack, Lawn Starter, Home Advisor. I mean, there's a million of these things. I shouldn't say a million, but there's several of them out there that I did this yesterday, sitting in my office downstairs in my basement, Waukee Lawn Care, Waukee Landscaping. And, these are some of the ones that popped at the very top of these things, other than a couple of paid ads. What are your thoughts on those things? Do they work? Do they not work? Are people wasting their money? I think we tried to sign up for one of them once, and, it goes out to 40 different people when one of these leads comes in, if I'm not mistaken. Can you talk to our people about those a little bit, please?
Absolutely. We stay away from them. And there's a couple of reasons. One is what you just mentioned. Generally, you are not the unique contractor that got the lead sent to you. It was sent to 5 or 6 others, and whoever comes in with the lowest price point is going to be the one getting the job. Mm-hmm. That's not a great type of lead. None of our clients are chucking a truck, right? All of our clients are mid to high priced. So they need good quality leads, like Corey was saying. The other reason is those platforms, they get all their leads the exact same place we do. Google accounts for almost all the leads coming from this industry, except for what's coming out of social media. I mean, yes, you see the Angie's commercials and the Home Advisor commercials. They're not bringing in the bulk of their customer base off those. Those are branding things. Those are branding marketing that they're doing. They get the bulk of their leads from Google, just like we do. If you ever go do a search for lawn care in this area, I guarantee you half that front page is going to be Angie's List and Yelp and those other lead generation systems that you can buy leads from.
Yeah. Do you guys deal with Bing, Yahoo, any of those at all?
Absolutely. That is like the long lost child. Like, I love Bing. I love Yahoo, especially if you're in a market that caters to an older crowd. So a lot of people don't realize that when you go buy a computer from Best Buy, it's going to mostly be a Windows computer. Bing is the only, Edge is the only installed internet browser, and Bing is the default search engine on that. A lot of older people or people who are not tech savvy, they just tend not to change those, right? They don't go download Chrome. They don't switch their default search browser over to Google. And they often don't realize that those ads on Bing and Yahoo are actual ads. So they just tend to click on the first one. A little tip for you guys, if you didn't know, about 80% of all people go right past Google ads and into the organic listings. That's why we want 80 to 90% of your leads to come from an organic source. When it comes to Bing, though, they can tend to have higher click-through rates because the user base doesn't tend to realize that they're ads. But also, the cost per lead is a lot better. The cost per lead that we see over at Bing is usually about half, but the volume is not there. That's the problem with Bing Network. Now, I should clarify, it's Microsoft ads. Microsoft runs Bing and Yahoo and AOL and every other search engine that's not Google. So if you use any other search engine that's not Google and you see ads, that's Microsoft ads running that. So the total volume that we'll see will be maybe about a third of what Google can deliver, but the cost per lead is about half. So we want to fill that bucket completely full before moving into these other platforms. The only other platform that we've really seen outperform Microsoft is going to be like Google Local Service Ads, or LSAs. If you guys are familiar with those. Facebook can often outperform Microsoft ads as far as the cost per lead goes, but Microsoft is going to have a lot lower quality and a lower contact rate compared to what Microsoft ads will do.
Interesting. Tony, did I hear that right? So when somebody, because I do this all the time, so maybe when I go to Google and I type something, today I was looking for an arcade game for our son's new game room that we're doing because I'm an idiot, and I immediately, like, the first 4 that popped up were advertisement, promoted, and then I went through those quickly and went down below that. Did you say that that's typical for most? Because I don't know why, but I immediately just get away from the ads and I want to see the actual website, who sells, in-home full arcade games, right? Or lawn care services, whatever you're looking for. But I immediately went past all the paid ads. Is that what you were saying? Did I hear that right?
Yep, absolutely. That's normal. And about 80% of people do that actually. So
Really?
Google makes their hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue selling 10 to 20% of their traffic, right? That's all they make it after. So yes, that's why organic, which is the wood in your fire, is so critically important because that's where the majority of leads are coming from. I will tell you, like, here's a perfect example. We have another client there in the Des Moines area. I think it's the largest residential company there in the area. So I'm sure you both know which one I'm talking about. When it comes to their springtime ads, they will spend a few $1,000s in paid ads. They'll generate maybe 150, maybe 200 at the most leads from paid ad sources, but they'll have over 1,000 organic. So when we're looking at like April, May, those months, they're pulling in 1,500, maybe close to 2,000 leads. And the very vast majority of those are going to be from organic, meaning they didn't pay a single dollar for those leads.
Nice.
It's oftentimes that our biggest companies spend the least amount of money in paid ads because their wood is burning so well. Why pay, $40, $50 a lead through a paid ad source when you're getting them for $6, $7, $8 through your SEO efforts?
That's interesting. I never would have thought of that. And I typically, especially if I'm Googling something in landscaping, I hit every single one of those paid ads at least once.
I just go right down. I go to the, I just get, it's like, I feel like, I don't know why. I just go right by them and I go down to the next legit one and all the time. I don't know why.
That's interesting. But I do have a couple follow-up questions on that. So these guys are doing a new website for us, and I think it's going to go live here this week, and it looks awesome. So one of the things that they said is, don't be so concerned with the content because most people don't read the content on those pages. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating to me on your websites. How true is that? I mean, obviously it's very true. And then can you talk to us too about these LSA, these local service ads? That's something that we just started. I have no idea what they were until we started. I had to get verified and pass a background check and everything.
You passed?
I barely, but I did.
Nice.
It hung out there for like 4 days, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't know.
Depends on how deep they dig.
Yeah, right. Hopefully they didn't go back more than 5 years. So.
No, so two questions there. One is based around the content. One is based around the LSAs and whatever. So let's talk first on the content. Content's what ranks on the search engines, right? When you can't rank in the organic listings outside of the maps unless you have some content on your website. That's what's ranking. SEO is half authority, half content. You got to have both. The content you have, your authority tells Google how much they can trust that content. So if you have the best content in the world, no authority, Google's still not going to show you because they don't trust you. You can have all the authority in the world, but if your content sucks, they're still not going to show you because you don't have any good content. You got to have both sides. So one of the things that we'll do, which you noticed on your new website, is we always start with the homepage, which is the most important, always talking about what you do, where you do it. You have to communicate that to the search engines. And then we want to create pages on your website dedicated to individual services, individual areas that you service, and then the educational things. So when it comes to things that you service, there's category service pages or service category pages and then service pages. So to break that down, we set up a hierarchy. So we'll have an overall services page, and then let's say we'll have a lawn care page, and then we'll have like a fertilization, a weed control, an aeration, etc. So you kind of create that hierarchy. Now, when people search, we want to have content dedicated to that search. So one question we always get from people is, we separate fertilizer and weed control as two separate pages. And everybody's always, we don't sell them separately. Well, no shit, I know you don't sell them separately. But what you don't know is that nobody searches for them together. Nobody goes to Google and types in lawn fertilization and weed control services, right? They type in lawn fertilization services or weed control services.
Right.
So we want to, and you can very easily verify this through Google Trends. So we want to create content that is targeted towards what they searched. Put yourself in Google's shoes for a second. Imagine you're a lawn care company, you have a services page. This is very common, bullet points out the services that you offer, right? Somebody goes to Google and searches for lawn fertilization services. They have the competitor we were just talking about that has a services page that mentions lawn fertilization on a little bullet point, or maybe even has a paragraph of lawn fertilization information along with all this other stuff that they do. Versus your website that has a page completely dedicated to fertilization, how it works, what you do, what the expectations should be, 600 to 1,000 words dedicated to that one topic that they just searched on and no other focus. Which one do you think Google is going to find as a more relevant piece of information? The guy that's got an entire 600 to 1,000 word piece of content dedicated to what somebody was searching for, or the guy that mentions it in one bullet point on a services page, right? So that's why we structure it that way. Area pages are the other types of pages you want to create for rankings. These are pages dedicated to individual towns and cities that you want to show up for. So when we talk about Des Moines, there's Des Moines, Ankeny, West Des Moines, Bondurant. I can't remember the others off the top of my head, but those are some of them in the area. You're not in all those areas. You don't have an address in every one of those cities. So you want to create content dedicated towards that city and then the services that you offer in that city. So those are your other types of content. Then there's your blogs that are educational, your cultural posts, your project case studies, all of that type of stuff. So that's a little rundown on the content.
Nice.
So the second question, the LSAs, what are those? Local service ads. It's a newer program from Google. It's a paid advertising program. It actually started about 5-6 years ago. We were actually one of the beta testing agencies that they allowed to run for the first 2 years. I think it was in beta. Its first year to the public, I think it was 2020 or 2021. This is a paid advertising program, much like their traditional Google ads, but instead of paying by the click, you pay by the phone call. So you're never wasting money. One of the problems that always existed with traditional Google ads is you pay for a click. So somebody clicks on that on your ad, goes to your website. You may not get a lead out of that, right? And you still paid for it. In our campaigns for regular pay-per-click, we strive for a 20% visitor to lead conversion rate. That means only 1 out of 5 people that click that ad is going to turn into a lead. So if you're paying $10 a click, that means you're paying $50 a lead. So you wasted $40 and that one $10 was able to come in for the lead. Now on LSAs, none of that exists because they don't go to your website. All they can do is pick up the phone and call you. Now, what's nice is those calls are typically cheaper. I don't know what they run in the Des Moines area, but typically they are on the low end, $12 to $15 a call. On the higher end, we typically see them not go over $30 to $40 a phone call. And these are going to be better leads because they're all calls. They're not people filling out forms. You can have multiples per GBP listing that you have. So like, Corey, this really wouldn't be applicable to you because I know Perfect Cut's mostly commercial facing. But if you have multiple addresses, you can have multiple LSA accounts. These are the ones that show up horizontally across traditional Google ads. So it's all the way at the top. And if you've ever done a search and you see like True Green listed there twice, that's how they're doing that. What's also nice is if you only say you have weed control as the category turned on and you have mowing turned off because you don't offer mowing services. Somebody calls you, wants a mowing service, you just hit the dispute button, Google gives you your money back for that phone call. So it's a great program, highly recommended.
Interesting. I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, and it was new, and that's one of the things that I had the question on because I wasn't 100% clear of what it was. And as you can see, this is why we hire a company to do this
right.
stuff.
Well, there's a lot to learn, and
there's so much.
And I'm thinking as our listeners are probably listening to this, like, man, $10 or $20 per call or whatever, that seems expensive. Well, it is, but it isn't, and then it's up to you to convert that into hopefully a customer, and then you got to retain the customer. So, you're always paying something. I hear guys, well, I get my customers for free. Well, you do some of them. You can get word of mouth. You can certainly get organic, but we all pay something for our clients at the end of the day. And
I think too, you get those $30, $40 phone calls, and for our instance, we'll take them because that could be a $70,000 landscape, design and install. So that makes a whole lot of sense for us. Guys that are just cutting grass, that might make, that might be a little expensive. But to your point, if you can get them signed on and you can keep them, that lead makes a whole lot of sense to you.
Absolutely.
But even those guys that have a lower customer lifetime value, that's one part of marketing is maximizing that lifetime value, right? That's one thing we haven't even discussed yet on this podcast is maximizing lifetime value with email and SMS marketing and things like that. But it's really not that expensive. Let's say, for example, you're paying even $100 a lead, let's say that, which is very expensive. And you're able to convert them at the 40 to 50% that you should. You pay $200 acquisition cost to have that. If let's say you're just on maintenance only, I'm a mow, blow, and go kind of guy, even with basic upselling, you can easily get that account to $1,500 to $2,000 a year, easily. You should be able to keep that account 3 to 5 years, right? So you're looking at the lifetime value of that account is actually more around like the $5,000-$6,000 or more if you keep them on longer, and you paid $200 to acquire that customer. Right. So your word of mouth, your trucks, your lawn signs, those will only take you so far. You're not going to get to 8 figures through word of mouth and referrals. You're going to need a solid marketing strategy to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love the SMS and the email that you just mentioned as well too. Because one of the things I noticed on our new website that we're doing is I looked at the terms or whatever it is, and as soon as they hit a lead, they're automatically signing up for our SMS and our email marketing as well, so we can hit them again, this fall when we need to do Christmas lights. So there's so much to these things and so much to this marketing.
Right. Well, and we talk a lot about this, and especially for guys in residential. You get the mowing client, but ideally, if you've got a great relationship and a partnership with them and you do good work, you should be getting maybe a spring remulch, pruning, edging. Can you get the irrigation service if you offer that? Can you get the fertilization and weed control? Can you do Christmas lighting? So when people say, well, I paid that, X to get the mowing customer. I'm always like, yeah, but have you maximized your value out of that client? We talk about a lot when guys say, I need to, I want 50 more customers. And I always say, but have you maximized the 200 customers you currently have? I just do mowing for them. Well, you haven't maximized the current customer base you already have. They already trust you to mow once a week. Why are you not doing their other services?
Right.
And maybe if you don't offer those services, that's one thing. You just want mowing and mow, blow, and go. That's one thing. But there's so much opportunity when guys talk about growing their customer base. I always ask, have you maximized your current customer base? Have you offered them all the services? Are they using somebody else to do the irrigation repair? Somebody else is pruning. Somebody else is doing a spring remulch, whatever the services may be, fall aeration. So you got to make sure you're maximizing your current customer base first.
And to that point too, once you do that, you get their email addresses, and you got MailChimp, Constant Contact. There's a million of those things that you can continue to send those things. And we do now. Every time the phone rings, one of the first questions he asks is, "What's your email address?" And they all get entered into the thing. Even if they don't buy from us, even if we don't do an estimate, we are going to market to them sometime down the road with that email address.
Absolutely.
So. Absolutely. And one thing I'll say about the upsells too. I will say every big company that we work with, they suck at this. Every company sucks at this. Nobody has come to us that has done a solid job of maximizing their customer base. And they're astonished by how much low-hanging fruit there is actually to have by this. So here's a couple of points to upsells. First is when you're upselling services, the services you're upselling are typically your most profitable
Absolutely.
services. So you're going to make more margins on those than you are whatever base service you have them on. Another one is going to be that the customer doesn't know when they need these services. How many of your regular customers do you think really know when the prime time to aerate their lawn is, right? Or when preventative grub needs to go down? Do you think they know that June is when preventative grub really needs to go down, or aeration is happening in September, October? No, you have to tell them that. You can very easily reach out to them. Another thing I love about upselling is it's cheap. It's so cheap to upsell and reach out to your customer base. It's your data, which also means there's no customer acquisition cost associated with it. So it's like a win-win-win every which way. I recommend doing a once a month blast. I recommend an email and SMS combo. So we offer that on our Elite program. It's email only on our Lower Accelerate program. From the data that we see, if it's properly messaged, addressed, audience segmented out, message personalized, for an email, we typically see a 5% quote request rate. From an email SMS campaign, that goes to 10 to 15%. And those are the averages that we see. So if you send out to 1,000 people an email SMS blast, you could expect 150 of them to raise their hand and say, yes, I want to quote for this. And you should close 75% of those leads that come from that. So that's the data that we see on our end from upsells. And that's just too easy, too much low-hanging fruit to not maximize and capitalize on.
Yeah, I'm going to argue with you, Tony. Perfect Cut is amazing at upselling. I mean, that is our entire, we have a group of account managers, and that is their entire focus. And to your exact point, our enhancement work is our most profitable. Our clients typically don't know, mainly commercial, that they've got dead shrubs, that they need to upgrade this, that, fix edging. They're not getting, we already have the relationship. They're not getting bids. They're either going to say yes or no. We constantly are providing them with photos, things that we need to do to their facility to upgrade, upsell. Almost always it's approved. I don't know what our rate is. Somebody smarter than me in our company does, but
right.
That is what we focus on. Our account managers are incentivized. That's how they make more money. That's how they're commissioned, is to sell enhancement work, and it's our most profitable division next to snow removal. So yeah, there's so much opportunity to maximize your clients by constantly showing them things. And even if they don't do it right away, especially in the commercial world, a lot of times they don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they need these services. And residential, to your point, they don't know they need to do it fall aeration. They don't know they need overseeding in the fall. There's just so many opportunities there to upsell and upgrade and get more margin out of your clients than just mow, blow, and go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What I love too about the enhancements like the mulch, the flowers, the overseed, the seed itself, you can mark up that product. So you
Yeah.
can make a margin on the product itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Tony, one of the things I wanted to discuss with you quickly was it seems like the trend is going to less and less social media, not being online and putting your phone down and putting your devices down. And, Billie Eilish announced last week that she's completely done because of her mental health. And it seems to be the trend going that way. Do you see it going that way? Is it going to affect digital marketing? Are we going to see at some point some print coming back into marketing? What are your thoughts with that?
I don't think so. Now, print is a different animal, but I don't think that that's going to be a major thing because social media was never one of the major outlets of where we're providing lead gen that actually has the highest closing rates. Search engines and Google always have been, and they always will continue to be. Now, other ones that are getting bigger, Alexa, right? The voice commands of asking your phone or your Alexa or your Google House or whatever it is, who they recommend for a plumber or whatnot. So those are some trends that are changing in that particular route. But I don't see social media or the degrade of social media having a huge impact because people are still going to find services, and there's still different ways to be able to do that.
Yeah. That's a good question though, because I think it does feel like, including me, like, man, I just don't, I'm barely on Facebook other than our own stuff. It's like I can hardly look at it anymore.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. It's 2 pictures of somebody's dinner, and then it's 4 ads, and then it's a picture of somebody's dinner, and then 2 more ads, and I'm like, fuck, I just want to know I just kind of want to see what my friends are up to, how their kids are doing.
Right.
I just can't take it. I can't take
but
it.
You'll still go to Google and find a plumber though.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And but it's like, holy shit, I can barely look at my phone anymore.
Yeah. So the Alexa and all those deals, the voice talking, I assume there's some sort of marketing behind those now too that you guys are probably working on figuring out and how all that works.
It comes into your content. That's all about content and writing natural content on your website because that's what it's looking at as the primary source. You don't have to submit to them. They track your stuff just like everything else and crawl it. But you have to write human-based content. Don't write content through Chat GPT or any of these new things that are coming out. Do it human written, the way humans would talk and read and write. That's how you would get shown up on those. I do want to mention one real quick thing about print though, since you did ask about that.
Yeah.
This would be good for you, Leroy. This is going to be not really applicable for too many lawn companies. I guess it technically could, but it's better for the project stuff. So imagine this. This is the new way to use print delivery. You have a project coming up. 2 weeks before the project is to start, you send a blast out to the 10 to 15 houses around that property. Let them know that you're going to be doing some construction and some work at that property, just letting them know that it's upcoming. Once you arrive on the property to start day 1, you have your project manager go knock on the neighbors' doors. You tell the neighbors, we're getting ready to start a project over here. It might be a little loud. If there's any issues, any debris, any problems at all, here's my card. Give us a call. While I'm here, did you have anything that you wanted to ask us about? Look at your backyard, anything at all that you'd like to do. If not, great, but otherwise, here's my card. Let me know if there's any problems. Just give me a call directly. Once the project is done, a couple of days later, another blast goes out with the final pictures of what the project looks like. Here's what we did, sends it out to them, and then has the call to action to turn into a lead. So this becomes targeted direct mail, not EDDM or anything like that, but specifically by radius around the house. And you're talking only the few houses around it, not the whole neighborhood, not 10-mile radius or anything like that. So that's the new and upcoming direct mail that we've been seeing. And I'm very excited to start offering it to some of our elite outdoor living companies to test it out. That's one of those things that we have not yet proven, but we've heard amazing things from the roofing industry on this and the general construction industry on this. So we're very excited to roll it out and try it.
Yeah, Tony, I really like that. And we've talked a lot about that just because, and I don't know how many houses around, but I think it's really cool. And again, even if you're not selling anything, but hey, we're going to be in the neighborhood. You're going to see our trucks and trailers in the street. We might make a mess in the street. We intend to clean up every night. I mean, you just kind of letting them know what's going on. We're going to be here for 3 to 4 weeks. Maybe we're doing a big install. Because, again, a lot of people are working. Both, husband and wife are working. They're not home during the day. They come home at night and they just see a pile of rock in the street. Maybe there's some cones out there marking it off. There's black marks up and down their driveway because you've been running your skid back and forth. It's pretty cool. I still even like the old school, lawn signs that, hey, Brilliant Borders is working on a project here, or this project being done by Brilliant Borders. But it is really nice. I think that's a great piece of advice for anybody listening, and you, Leroy, as well. But I mean, letting people know around, and then they're like, hey, we know who's working in the neighborhood. We kind of have a project in mind as well. Let's see how they do here. It's just an educational piece as well. And, from the print side, I know for Perfect Cut, we don't do any print marketing, but we do have a lot of really branded and great collateral when we meet with clients. They're getting a full presentation packet. It's got a little bit about our team, our company, our core values. It's also got this process of how it works every step of the way. So we're still printing things, but we're not sending them out as far as marketing. But when we meet with clients, our collateral, our printed stuff is high level.
Yeah, we do the same kind of thing. It's a folder presentation, and we don't have the values and those kinds of things in there. We probably should add those. I kind of learned something here today, or learned a lot actually. But it's always nice to go with some sort of presentation rather than just emailing them off a thing in the email and hoping that they call you back.
That just doesn't work. You've got to meet with people and walk them through the process and show them who you are, what you're going to do. And again, I'm just a huge believer in we have to tell our story. We have to tell them who we are, what we believe in, how long we've been in business, what type of staff we have, projects that we've worked on, show them examples, and then it becomes so much less about price and about who they trust and who they want to use.
Right, yeah, who they're using. So, yeah.
And your marketing can actually communicate a lot of that, right? I mean, if you're building project case studies on your website, which I know we've talked about that, I'm sure, Leroy, about doing those project case studies and educating people on timelines, price points, that kind of thing, you can actually bypass a lot of the general qualification that you would do over the phone because your marketing has already handled a lot of that for you.
Yeah, 100%.
Boy, lots of good stuff. I was thinking, you probably already answered this. How are guys tracking? Maybe Leroy, you can answer this. Maybe it's software driven, but how are guys tracking, and how are you encouraging them to track an actual ROI? I mean, if you're doing 5 or 6 different marketing campaigns, you've got Google, you've got, you're doing some email blasts, you're maybe you're doing old school door hangers. I mean, how should guys track their ROI?
Oh yeah. So that's the most important piece to everything, right?
I mean,
otherwise you're just throwing a bunch of shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, right? You got to know what you can move money towards and reinvest in and things like that. So this all comes into the data tracking and data analysis. We use a third-party company for this. Everybody who spends $1 on marketing should be using a company similar to this or this one. Company we use is a company called What Converts. And what happens is this company will issue, and our clients, is 15 to 20 different phone numbers for your business. These phone numbers are ones that the business owns. The tracking company doesn't own them. You can keep them forever, but it installs a script on your website, and based on where people come from, it'll show a different phone number. So that's all the digital stuff. So there's 4 placements on Google that you can go to somebody's website, and if all of us were to click a different placement at the exact same time, we would all see a different phone number. So when we call that number, it's going to track us back to our original source of where we came from. And it does that for social, it does it for live chat, it does it for absolutely everything. Forms, phone calls, text messages, live chat, social messages, all of that type of stuff. Then you can see reporting based on how that all went down. Now, the additional features that are going to help people understand their ROI is a couple things. One, it tracks historical data. So like with Leroy here, when he first started, if you haven't got it to us yet, we will obtain an entire customer base and lead base that is in your database right now. We'll preload that into What Converts. When a lead comes in, whether it's a phone call or a form submission from their website, it'll cross-reference their phone number and email with Leroy's current customer lead list database that he already has. And it's going to tell us for every lead, is this a brand new lead or what we call a unique lead, or is this a repeat lead, somebody who's already seen his business in the past? A lot of the biggest complaints from marketing agencies is I'll sit down for my review with them. They talked about I generated 200 leads, but my CRM only has 100, right? It's because you had 200 phone calls or form submissions. Doesn't mean every one of them was a lead. So you want to have a system like this that is going to tell you, is this person calling you from this Google My Business number? Is this one of your existing customers or is this a brand new lead? So you can separate out between those. Also with the lead tracking, all the calls are recorded. So you can always go back and look at all the historical data, listen to phone calls, do all of that type of stuff. And it gives you that breakdown on a per platform and all various different types of reports, which leads were from which source, which ones were quotable by source, et cetera. When we are now starting to import data, like we talked about at the beginning of this call, where we're taking them out of their CRM and putting in the sales value for each lead. Now we can tell what is our revenue generated on a per platform basis. Mm-hmm. On our side, we have your costs and what you spend in ads and what you've paid us, so we can give you an actual direct ROI on our services. And that's what you have to know when it comes to your digital marketing. So you got to track it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last thing I forgot to mention, one last thing, sorry. You can issue numbers for off internet stuff. So a lot of our clients have us issue numbers for trucks, flyers, direct mail, lawn signs, all of those types of things. So if somebody calls you from a direct mail piece, then it'll come into our reports. It'll have a tracking QR code on it. When you scan that QR code, you go to your website through that special tracking link. And if they convert, it tracks them back to that postcard. So when you look at your reports, you'll actually see postcard leads and postcard data there because you use tracking phone numbers and tracking URLs on your card.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's a whole lot to it, a whole lot more than I ever knew. That's
well, do you want to grow your company or not?
Yeah, I guess so. We're on board.
Let's get it together.
Tony, we're going to ask you one final question. We ask this to everybody that comes on the Green Grind. What is the best business advice you've ever been given?
The best business advice that I've ever been given. Oh man, there's lots of them.
This is where we find out if you've ever listened to the Green Grind or not.
I would say this is more advice that I gave myself. I would say is not to give a shit, right? And what I mean by that is I run and operate this business like it's my bus that I'm driving. I use this bus analogy all the time. This is my bus. I am taking landscape companies and lawn care companies to their goals of where they want to go. And I'm happy to bring on any qualifying companies onto this bus and bring them to their destination. But one thing they will not do is drive my bus. I will drive my bus and take them there. So being able to say no to business, even if it's a good opportunity, is critical, right? We just talked to, if I can't say their name, but we just talked to the largest residential design build company, and we couldn't take them on because they wanted exclusivity, and we don't offer exclusivity. They have locations across like 13 states, and I guaranteed them we have people in their 13 areas already, so it's not going to work out. So we walked away from a huge potential deal simply because it wasn't going to be a great fit for our business. So not bending and setting systematic processes in place and sticking to them, as I would say, has been the best advice I've given myself. I don't know what the best piece of advice somebody else gave me would be.
No, that's all right, though.
No, that's good.
It's good, and you have to be able to say no to customers. And I know you guys were like right up front with that in the beginning, that there's no exclusivity in your market. Right. If there's 5 of them in there, they do and they explain how they work all that.
And you don't really care. I mean, I don't know who the other companies in Des Moines that you do, and Leroy, who gives a shit if they take you down the path that you want to go?
Right, exactly.
They create leads, you grow your business. I don't care who.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
If they're doing 3 others.
Absolutely.
Do you get the results that you're looking for? And the rest of it doesn't really matter. And it seems like I see some of your marketing stuff on Facebook as well. And it seems kind of in your face a little bit aggressive, but it feels really like we're good at what we do. Do you want to grow your business or don't you? And right. I mean, I'm sure that's by design. And I've watched it before I even knew who Lawnline was. And when Leroy mentioned, I'm like, man, I've seen their stuff. It seems a little aggressive. But it's clean and clear. This is what we do.
Right. We're data backed. That's one of the biggest things is we're data backed, meaning that we have the data to back up and show exactly what we're talking about, what we're doing works. You know, when I spoke at I think it was when I was at the Service Conference or Service Edge Conference in Dallas in November. I started off the presentation with our lead count from the last 30 days. We generated, this was in November. In the previous 30 days for our clients, we had generated like 15,000 unique leads for our clients collectively. And I asked anybody in the room to raise their hand if anybody else has generated more than 15,000 leads in the lawn and landscape space in the last 30 days, right? And nobody has. So when it comes to listening to what we have to say in our strategies, it's been proven through data. We run tens of millions of dollars through this program every year. I mean, because generating 15,000 leads in the last 30 days in the middle of winter is lot. We'll generate probably
there's a lead there. You just missed a lead.
Exactly. We'll probably generate 50,000 leads a month when it comes to the springtime. So that's why I'm confident I can tell you need to close 40% of your leads. If you are not closing 40% of your leads, there's a problem in your sales process. Yep. I know that because your 250 leads are not unique to these 30,000 others that we generated, right? These 30,000 others all closed at 40%, and your 250 closed at 10%. That's a problem in your sales. That's not a problem in the lead generation. So ours is data backed, and call it cocky. I call it confidence.
No, I like it. I'm confident in what we do as well, and I like it. Tony, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you spending time with us today. Tell our listeners how they can find you guys on social, website. Where can they find you if they're interested in, if they meet the criteria and they're interested in growing their company?
Absolutely. Well, you can follow me personally on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. You can find me on Facebook too, Tony Ricketts. Our website is just lawnline.marketing. There's no .com or anything like that. Just Google our name. You'll find us there as well. So yeah, that's the best way to reach out.
Awesome, man. We appreciate you spending time with us today. Guys, we drop a new episode of The Green Grind every Tuesday. We appreciate Jobber and Hustler being our sponsors as well. If you or someone else you know think you would be a good guest, you just jump on the Ballard website. You scroll down, you'll see the Green Grind logo. You click on that. It will. There's a quick questionnaire, and it sends me an email as well. So awesome, Tony, man. I appreciate the information. I think I learned something. Leroy, you got a lot of work to do, buddy.
Well, we got a ton of work to do. So, Tony, thanks so much for being on this podcast with us. Maybe we can catch up with you sometime next year, and we can kind of say some results of what we really saw. And I can tell you, we did one email campaign, and I think we sent it to like 2,800 people, and the guy was back in the corner doing estimates for weed and fert for a week and a half. And there were so many people that responded to it. I think it was insane.
I think it'd be cool to do a year from now and really sit down and say, okay, we're a year into this. How did what happened?
Yeah,
you said you already got a ton of business lined up all the way through August or September. And so, yeah, let's see what happens, and we'll see what kind of data you get. And if you can get the work done, right?
Yeah, we can, for sure. So, Tony, thanks so much for taking an hour with us today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Leroy.
Corey, yeah,
Corey,
he's kind of that. He's kind of the. I steal the show
Corey.
typically. It's
I'm carrying this show over here.
Clearly not. He doesn't even know your name. So
Leroy, Corey, I appreciate you guys having me on here. I do know your name. I actually do follow you on Facebook, by the way, too, Corey. You know, if you remember, we actually bumped into each other in Louisville this year. We were coming out of the after party, and you were standing there on the corner with your family. I think waiting on an Uber. I was waiting on an Uber too. And
I do.
Stopped you for a second. You remember that?
I do remember. Yep, absolutely. Awesome. Yeah. We'll be back there again this year, and I don't know what. I think we're already booked for it. I keep contemplating whether we're going to have a booth or not. We haven't done a booth there since 2009, but I enjoy going out there and just networking and having fun with people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be there again as well. So.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tony.
Leroy, I appreciate it.
Really appreciate it, man. Take care.
Have a good night. Thanks, buddy.
Bye-bye.